coming tonight. This is a little difficult for me because I hear my echo. That it would be great if we could avoid it. Oh, now it's better. Ah, okay. Okay, thank you. So as Evgeny mentioned before, my first talk here was dedicated to Putin's speech portrait in general. We talked about how Putin speaks and how, like, which words and phrases he uses and what it can tell us not only about his personality, but also about his actions and what is behind his actions, probably, and his intentions. So we were trying to see the whole picture of how he speaks. And today we will be talking about only one word from his vocabulary, about the word peace. But it's also interesting, and although it's only one word, it can tell us a lot because it's the opposite of war, and we can see how this word has changed and has transformed throughout the full-scale invasion of Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale war. And it also can tell us a lot, I think, about Putin's intentions, because we see that now the peace negotiations are in the center of everybody's attention, and everybody is waiting how can it end, all right? So let's talk about this word, and in the beginning of our talk, I will give you a little glossary, the words you should know. It doesn't work. I can down. Okay. So first off, in the Russian language, the word mir has different meanings. It can mean peace, a situation in which there is no war, violence, or conflict. It can mean world, the earth and all the people, places, and things on it. It can mean sphere, the people and things connected to a particular activity or subject. Last time we were talking about branding and naming in Russia, and actually the word world, so the second meaning of the word mir, is very popular for naming, for branding. So we can see like the world of coffee, or the world of furniture, or the world of fur, or the world of, I don't know, jackets. So it's one of the most popular words for branding, for naming. I'm sorry? Yes, space station. Yeah. So it's used a lot. It's been used a lot. And by the way, it's interesting that in the Ukrainian language it's different, because there is a word mir, which means a situation without a war, and there is the word svit, which means a world. So they have two different words for those meanings, and in the Russian language they have only one word which has different meanings, and it's actually important because you know about the concept of Russian world. So those two words, they are very important for in Putin's dictionary, his vocabulary. And another word I want to share. So there is a English expression, right? The term peace deal. I like to add a little bit of obscenity. You know, it's very important to know Russian obscenities to understand the Russian world. So in English, it's an agreement to end conflict, but for Russian ears, it sounds almost identical to an obscene past tense verb, пиздел. I'm sorry, but I need to pronounce it, meaning he talked a lot, but everything he said was meaningless, useless, or simply a lie. So it's just like a senseless talk. and it means a senseless talk. That's why there are a lot of jokes, a lot of memes about the whole concept of peace deal, around peace deal, because we know that all the talks about peace deal between Putin and Trump, they don't end with, they don't lead anywhere so far, and that's why it's also a word I would like you to know. So as I said before, that peace deal or peace negotiations are in the center of attention now, and everybody is waiting how it will end. And you know that a day before, in the middle of those negotiations, Russia made one of the deadliest, committed one of the deadliest attacks on Kyiv. More than 20 people died, including kids, and a lot of destruction there. And Vladimir Zelensky said that US has spoken of Putin's readiness for peace, but he chooses ballistic missiles. I put this headline here because, again, it shows us what the word peace means for Putin. But I will talk about it in more detail. So this is one of the photos from yesterday's attack on Kyiv. So that's how Putin's peace looks. So on August 1st in Moscow, Putin said, "We need a lasting and stable peace on solid foundations that would satisfy both Russia and Ukraine and would ensure the security of both countries. But the conditions certainly remain the same." So he lets us know that, and once again, he keeps letting us know that the conditions stay the same. He doesn't want to change anything. He doesn't want to surrender. He doesn't want to end the war, and his conditions remain the same. That's the peace for him, peace on his conditions. And that's actually a twisted meaning of the word peace. It's not a situation like we saw in the dictionary. We can find it in the dictionary, the situation without a war, but it's a situation without a war, but on Putin's conditions. So you can see how he adds to the original meaning. And it happens all the time, because as I said before, I think during my first talk, when we were talking about Putin's speech portrait, I mentioned how in Russia, the authorities, the people in power, the Kremlin, they are not only like changing the language, but they are basically creating their new language system with the words with different meanings, because they take the words that we all know, but they fill it with different meanings. And that's exactly what happened with the word peace. So how Russian TV reacted to the Alaska summit? They called Putin-Trump meeting historic. They quoted Putin. They presented it actually as a Putin's victory. Talks achieved an understanding that could pave the way for peace in Ukraine. Again, meaning peace on their conditions. They noted Trump's shift from calls to a ceasefire to demands for a peace deal. Remember, peace deal. And some of the experts on the Russian TV channels, for example, this one, Dmitry Suslov, on Channel 1, Первый канал, he said that negotiations should proceed in accordance with the Russian paradigm rather than according to the whims of the Europeans, who kept insisting that it was necessary first to declare an unconditional ceasefire and only then, when pigs fly, to begin talks on a final peace settlement. You can catch that style, you can understand the style here, that propagandist style they use. And also this quote is important because it shows us that now the Europe is the main enemy. Before it was United States, like Anglo-Saxon world, but when Donald Trump came to the power, they switched to Europe. So now Europe is the main enemy. United States still like give some hope, and they are trying. They put some hope into the United States, but they present Europe and European leaders like people who do not want real peace. Russia wants peace because Russia, according to one of the main Russian narratives, did not start that war. They were just protecting themselves from NATO soldiers, and they are just protecting themselves. So they did not start the war. They want peace. United States and Donald Trump in particular, they want peace as well. They are trying, but Europe is not trying. They want the war to continue. That's how they present the situation. From the very beginning of the war against Ukraine, the meaning of the word mir, peace, began to shift under the influence of the Russian authorities. For Russian courts, it came to signify discrediting the army, and I will tell you a lot of stories about that. For Russian propaganda, it became a symbol of weakness. So this, as I said, I will tell a lot of stories illustrating how the meaning of the word peace shifted, was shifting, and was filled with different meanings. And this is one of them. So in May of 2023, a priest, Father Ioan Koval, was defrocked because while reciting the prayer for Holy Rus, за Святую Русь, he replaced victory with peace. So what happened there was a special prayer distributed to all the churches in Moscow, but I think in Russia in general. The priests were required to say that prayer during liturgy. So it was some kind of official prayer distributed to the churches. And if you disobey, they will punish you. And so that particular priest, Ioan Koval, he was reading that prayer, but he replaced the word victory of the Russian army, because they were praying for the victory of the Russian army in the churches. And he replaced it with peace. He didn't want to say those words, victory of the Russian army. Someone from the parishioners heard it and reported him, which is the whole situation is, if you think about it, it's I can't even wrap my mind around it. Some of the parishioners heard that prayer, reported him that he replaced the word, that he was praying for peace, and they punished him. So Patriarch Kirill personally banned him from service. He was reinstated later, but still he was punished. And that shows us again the new meaning of the word peace. Peace is something opposite of victory. So it's like a defeat of the Russian army. That's the meaning they put in it. Also in Russia, you know, they celebrate May 1st, and they celebrated it throughout Soviet era. It was a very popular Soviet holiday. There were demonstrations, and they still have those demonstrations. It's like a Labor Day, right? International Workers' Day. And there is a traditional slogan they use in Soviet era. They used in Soviet era. Mir, trud, mai. Peace, labor, and May. And everybody knows it. Even people who were not born in the Soviet era, they still know the slogan because it's very, very popular and well known. And they continued using it on the May demonstrations in Russia until the war started. Then, when they saw people who were going to the streets to protest and to say no to war and to say yes to peace, they kind of decided to ban the word peace. they were like, what should we do if people are still holding those slogans, Mir, trud, mai, peace, labor, and May? We need to do something with the word peace, because in the current circumstances, it sounds kind of it's like an opposition word. So what happened when people went to the demonstrations and they were holding posters like that? You see the question mark in front of the word mir, peace. They detained a lot of people just for holding slogans like that, posters like that. and many received protocols for discrediting the Russian army. Again, if you think about it, how does it discredit the Russian army? Just the word peace itself. How? They actually, by that by that action, by arresting, detaining people, they gave away themselves, that they are committing crimes, and the war itself, it's an aggression. That otherwise they wouldn't arrest, and they wouldn't say it was discreditation of the Russian army. So these are the examples of the posters with those posters people were detained. This says Miro Mir, and this is like a play of words, as I said in the glossary in the beginning of the lecture. Miro, Miro means world, Mir means peace, like peace to the world. Some people there were a lot of people detained, and so some were fined, some were released. So there's like different situations. I don't know. Because there is no one scenario. There is no one scenario. They can detain you, but it depends on like people who detain you on many factors. But it doesn't have any logic. When I am like, you mean like target on purpose someone? Yeah. Probably it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Like I am a foreign agent, so-called foreign agent, so I'm on the list of those foreign agents, right? And probably if some of my relatives go like in protest, the chances will be higher that they will be arrested. Yes, I didn't understand from the beginning. But in general, all those arrests, they have no logic. And putting people on that foreign agents list also doesn't have any logic. People very often ask me, like, what is the logic? Why do they put this or that person like on the list of foreign agents? No, no logic. This is again one of the posters. No war, no to the war. Those demonstrations were like in different cities, and in different cities people were detained. Yeah, but these are the examples: Yekaterinburg, Krasnoyarsk, Ulyanovsk. But then the authorities, the local authorities, started thinking like, if people cannot go to those first May demonstrations with regular slogans like from Soviet era, we need to replace it with something. We need to be creative. And they replaced some slogans with, you see in Vladivostok, like labor is cool, spring and labor celebration. In Yekaterinburg, Krasnoyarsk, Ulyanovsk, they just crossed out peace, like banned it. In St. Petersburg, they replaced this traditional slogan with spring, labor, and Petersburg. You can see it here, but it's like small letters. It's in on one of the metro stations. And those bans were federally sanctioned, and words were removed also from social media posts by different state TV channels and government agencies and so on. So the word peace was kind of banned. Another situation. So, as I said, there is no logic, and anything might be a reason for the arrest or detain. This guy, this is the center of Moscow. This is a World War II memorial, and it says Kiev. Because that World War II memorial in the center of Moscow, it mentions different cities, Soviet cities from the Soviet era. And so he's standing in front of this memorial, holding Tolstoy's novel, War and Peace. And and he was detained just for holding Tolstoy's novel there. Discrediting of the Russian army. I don't know. This is my favorite situation, my favorite case. Yes, so there is a brand in Russia. I don't know if they still have it. So called Miratorg. Miratorg. It's a brand of ham meat, and it doesn't have anything to do with mir, with peace. It's just from the name Mira. And this guy is holding this package of ham above his head, and he crossed out the second part of the word, and only mir is visible, and he was detained as well. And this is the father from police car. Wag. So, and people were making jokes that it was very practical of him because he can have a snack there. So this was also kind of protest, and just because of the word mir, he was detained, the word peace. This also tells us a lot about the language of protest in Russia, because in Russia, the main purpose for people, it's very difficult for them because on the one hand, they need to show that they are against the war, like against Putin, but at the same time, they want to hide it. And how you can leave a message by showing it and at the same time hiding it so you won't be arrested. This is a specifics of the Russian language of protest. And there are a lot of other examples, but not about peace. Also, this woman, Anna Gorovets, was detained for a dove because a friend gave her a patch of a dove. She pinned it on her coat and walked around Moscow. Was stopped near underground, detained by police before meeting a friend. And she was like, it's just a bird, I was trying to say. But they also told her she was discrediting the Russian armed forces. She was released. So some of those people, they were released. Some, it just depends on the situation. Also in St. Petersburg, there was a bookstore, and they removed the word mir, peace, from its window. There was no official ban, but still they decided to. That store was a couple of times it was like attacked, vandalized, and so the word mir was attacked by the Russian authorities and by the patriots. But again, it was I would say like in the beginning of the war, maybe first 2 years maybe. But then it's like the fear for the word peace became less, I would say, because all that narrative about peace negotiations started, and Putin started using the word peace more in a different meaning. So that was the meaning he put in the word peace for like internal use, you know, for his own people, for the Russians. Peace is something opposite to victory. But when the peace negotiations proceeded, he started using more that word peace more for like external use, for other countries, for the external audience, meaning peace on my conditions. Also, I was actually surprised that scholars and I don't know, so-called like researchers, they dedicate academical articles to that topic, to that particular topic about the peace. For example, I found an article called "Calls for Peace in Ukraine as a Method of Military Propaganda." If you think about it, like calls for peace, as a method of military propaganda. It does make it, and it's an academical, so-called academical article written by Nina Ishchenko. She's a PhD in philosophy, and she presents herself as cultural expert, literary critic, and member of the self-proclaimed Luhansk People's Republic Writers Union. She published that article in Vestnik of the Tyumen State Institute of Culture. And she claims that calls for peace are manipulation aimed at increasing societal anxiety and provoking anti-government actions. So calls for peace are provoking anti-government actions. If you say, like, I want peace. She studies the phenomenon using cultural anthropological methods and content analysis, that's what she says, of anti-Russian propaganda in modern media. But I read all that article. I didn't find any analysis and any examples, like not a single one. She didn't, in academical articles, there were no examples. How exactly the word peace is a method, why is it a method of military propaganda? So that's kind of academical works they do. So the Russian authorities fear the word mir when spoken by citizens, yet actively use it themselves. They, as I said before, they attach a third meaning to it, peace on our conditions. So in the beginning of the war, Putin said the current Kiev authorities must respect the free will of residents of Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic, Zaporizhia and Kherson regions. Only in this way can there be peace. Only in this way, meaning the way Russia wants. So in Putin's dictionary, mir, the end of the war on his terms, the triumph of an aggressive war. And that's why I noticed that, and many other experts noticed that the word mir and мирные переговоры, peaceful negotiations, became kind of toxic outside Russia. For example, for Ukrainians, if you call for peace, it means you support Russia, actually. If you just call for peace, if you're not saying like we need like fair peace or we need to end the aggressive war, something like that. But if you just say, oh, I want peace, I don't want war, I want peace, that sounds not neutral. That sounds more like you support Russia because of everything Putin did to this word and to the narrative and to the discourse. It became toxic. And that's why we saw a lot of situations or when like people famous people, public figures were criticized by calling for peace, like presenting it as something neutral, but in the current discourse, it's not neutral because it's the word is corrupt by Putin. So we cannot use it anymore as it is, unfortunately. So as a result, any abstract calls for peace talks by world leaders, public figures, or activists are perceived as support for the aggressor. So as I said, in Russian, mir means more both peace and world. Putin has turned this into a weapon. In his vocabulary, peace is not a reconciliation or compromise. It's absence of resistance, silence of opposition at home, acceptance of Moscow's rules. And that echoes the Soviet formula, принуждение к миру. Where military interventions were framed as actually like peaceful, as a way to stabilize the situation. And this is the part of a bigger vocabulary. As I said, they basically create like a different language with words with different meanings. Invasion, where invasion means liberation, occupation means also liberation or security, war is path to peace, and peace is never an end in itself. It's a mask concealing war aims. And Actually, that's how I want to end this little talk about the word peace. Again, we talked about only one word, but it can tell us a lot about Putin's and modern Russia's vocabulary in general. But the question is, when I give interviews on that topic about the language of propaganda, about the language of Putin and modern Russia, like Russian authorities, they often ask me, like, how can we get out of this language, and how can we will it disappear someday? And I don't know, because for now that it was a process. It was not created overnight, that language. It was a process towards that, but that process started like fastened when the war started. And now they have already like that, the whole system, the whole language system, and it will be very hard to do something with it. Thank you, and now time for questions. I probably
There may be one. One. Okay.
no, we need it for the stream.
Ksenia, as always, thank you so much. My question is, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my name is Anton. And my question is, in your opinion, right now, what other word or a sentence can be used to replace the peace and bring the meaning that it used to mean before?
Well, I think Ukraine tried to use like a phrase, like a fair peace, справедливый мир. But just one word, I don't know what can replace. I think now when we talk about peace, we always have to add something. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And that's why, by the way, there is a part of a Russian society, and it's actually the biggest part according to all like the polls and sociologists. It's a very like passive part. They are not actively pro-war, but they are not against the war. And they're kind of hanging out there and waiting until it all ends. And they are for peace in general. They will never put, like, let's say, Ukrainian flag on their profile picture, but they would put the dove on the picture, and that's why I know a lot of Ukrainians, it's irritating. They got irritated by that, because it's to put a dove, it means to be for peace. It's like an abstract peace in general, just to end the war, but what conditions, it doesn't matter. Maybe we need like to give up all the Ukrainian land and give it to Putin, but just we just need the war to end. So that's why symbols and words like peace, they're so like corrupt now. We need to use it differently and to add something to it. The mic. There is a question here and a question there.
Good afternoon. My name is Chike. I was just curious, does Putin have any incentive to make a compromise? Because from listening to this, I don't see any reason why he would want to compromise if he can continue to move forward as he's doing. I'm just curious, does he have any reason to compromise?
I'm not a political analyst, but I don't think he wants any compromise. But nobody knows what is in Putin's head, right? We don't know, but just by analyzing what he says, we can tell that he wants to continue the war. And by the way, again, the word compromise, I didn't analyze it like in detail, but I'm pretty sure if I look into it, how Putin uses that word compromise, I'm pretty sure he uses it as a compromise that Ukraine should be ready for. Like a compromise for Ukraine, not, not for Russia.
Hello. I grew up in Taiwan, and I have to tell you something from the different perspective, because you know, mainland China, the PRC is actually supporting Russian propaganda in the Chinese language world. Even my mom, she's brainwashed by that kind of propaganda. She thinks that all Ukrainians are Nazis, or Putin was fighting a just war to fight the Nazis. She really, a lot of Taiwanese actually believe this kind of propaganda.
Is it, I'm sorry for interrupting you, is it like pure Russian propaganda or with some kind of twist, like Chinese twist?
I think Chinese twist, because yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think both. I don't, because they don't read Russian. My mom, they don't read English, but they believe so much in the Russian propaganda, and they forget that Soviet Union actually invaded China during World War II, but they forget all the history about how the Soviet attack and kill Chinese, and they all blame Ukrainian for being the one invade China actually during the war, or they blame Ukrainian for collaborating with Nazis. That's, I try to correct her, and we always end up arguing. And I say, why are you arguing for those Russian fascists against your own son? You know, because I know it's not true. Yeah, and I know why I don't know why there are so many Taiwanese actually supporting Russia. I think because Chinese brainwash combining with the Russian propaganda in line. You know, we use Line. There's an app for chat. Always, my mom always, back then, she always sent me a lot of Russian propaganda. I said, Mom, stop sending me those. I don't want that. Yeah. That's terrible. I just want to let you know how.
That's very sad to
it's
hear.
very sad. And
Yeah.
and my mom even mocked me. She said, "You still believe Ukraine will win?" I think like 2 years ago in Taiwan, she argued with me. I said, "Yes, it will. Ukraine will win, and Russian people will win by overthrowing Putin." That's what I believe. Yeah.
Thank you so much. One more question.
Hi, I'm Will. I was wondering if you have any other examples of words Putin has bastardized other than peace.
Actually, like a lot of words, but for example, we can talk about the word denazification. When he started the war, he said that one of the main reasons to start the war was denazification of Ukraine, to like get rid of Nazis. But the thing is that the word denazification, it's a historical term. If you look into a dictionary, it doesn't have the meaning Putin used it like in a different meaning, because it's a historical term meaning the process after the World War II, denazification. And he kind of reinvented that word for his own purposes. And actually, the Russian people, they even didn't understand what it meant in the beginning. There were the whole, I was analyzing texts of media, TV, in the first 2 weeks of the war, and they made like the whole, I don't know, 5-minute piece about the word denazification just to explain it. But then they had some polls. They did some research and they found out that that word didn't become popular, and people were not using it. Also, it's very hard to pronounce it, and so they started using it less and less, and it kind of almost disappeared from Russian propaganda because it was not popular. And still, Putin uses it, but people still don't understand what it really means, because he put his meaning in it. or like any was like liberation. So, for example, they освобождение. They claim that they liberate Ukrainian cities from Kiev regime, how they call it. But in fact, they're occupying the cities, but they call it liberation. Or some other words. They use a lot of euphemisms like that. Demilitarization and sorry. Yes, that's what I said. Also, oh, I just wanted to say something and I forgot. Denazification. Yeah, I will, if I remember that, I will tell you. But there are a lot of words like that. Oh, the main word he bastardized, patriot and patriotism. Because but that happened before the full-scale war. I remember how the TV channel TV Rain, Дождь, in Russia in 2014, when just the hybrid war in Ukraine started, they did like a TV marathon, and I was one of the guest hosts, and that was a marathon dedicated to the concept of patriotism. And we were talking about how that word was bastardized by by Putin's regime, because now patriot is actually for us, if you say like Russian patriot, it's someone who supports Putin. So and usually it's like an aggressive person who supports Putin aggressively. And it's not a good word, although in the English language it has 100% like positive connotation, patriot and patriotism. And I think actually Donald Trump is trying to do something like that with the word patriot, because he is trying to present patriots as people who like the current regime, the current president, but not America in general. And that's so he's also like trying to do that with the word. But I would say this is maybe the main word Putin bastardized. Where's the mic?
Thank you very much, Ksenia. Matthew Kupfer. Many of these terms, including mir, have very Soviet context beyond the way they're used today. I mean, I think phrases like liberation, освобождение, I mean, there are Soviet applications, народно-освободительное движение. I think even the word, for example, genocide, which is Russia has used in describing,
right.
what it claims Ukrainians are doing to Russian speakers. I mean, that word was heavily politicized in the Soviet Union. If you read Soviet academic texts on genocide, it doesn't really resemble anything we would think to be genocide. And frankly, that word was politicized by everyone from the moment it was created, but that's another story. How do you think the Soviet connotations of many of these terms affect their usage today? I was always told that if you toast zamir, you're doing something very Soviet. That's kind of old-fashioned. Now people are getting in trouble. The bookstore is getting in trouble for the Soviet slogan. But on the one hand, they're obviously trying to repurpose the story of World War II for this war, and they've been doing that since 2014. It's not new. On the other hand, they really have had to alter the message of much of the Soviet traditional messaging around World War II. I mean, I think we know that a lot of I think a phrase very associated with Russia and with the Russian public, not necessarily the government, is this idea, and not just Russia, frankly, лишь бы не было войны, as a sort of memory of how people feel about, I don't know, I'm not even sure how to explain that one. It's so complicated. But how do you think?
That was actually very positive also.
Right.
It didn't have any negative connotation, that phrase. And but now it's kind of has it for different reasons. For Putin, it means a person is against the war. And for some other people, it means like maybe a person just doesn't care.
But how do you think? I mean, how do you think the Soviet connotations of these words affect their application today? Because on the one hand, the Putin regime is we can't say it's 100% pro-Soviet, but there are aspects of the Soviet Union it really likes.
I think he just uses some, he picks some concepts, some words, phrases, like ideology concepts from Soviet Union, and he twists them. He doesn't use it as they are. Like he doesn't just borrow them from the Soviet era, but I think he gives them that modern Putin twist, and that's why, as you said, some phrases that were 100% like positive had 100% positive meaning in the Soviet era. Now they sound completely different. And so I think he just plays with that Soviet content and with Soviet nostalgia, but he fills it with some meanings he wants to put in. That's what actually happened with that Victory Day, because it was one of the holidays Russians like really liked, and it was like nothing bad about it, but he turned it into something it's like even shameful to like now.
Do we have a sense of how ordinary people are responding to this who aren't the sort of Z patriots in quotes? Because it seems like when mir suddenly means something bad, and when лишь бы не было войны is suspicious, that would be very confusing to people.
Like how they react now, because I think I don't know, it's very hard and it's very hard to say in general, because to have some polls in Russia, you need to have like some independent sociology companies who can work with people and people without fear, and obviously people are very scared, so it's very hard to say. And also I think it changed throughout the war. So it was like one attitude in the beginning, and now it's shifting somewhere else, but I can't say exactly because we need some research for that. Or maybe Michael Vasura was one of the guests on the Russian TV channels. So he was representing America, and he was like beaten for that by Russian propagandists. But he was invited there to present like American point of view. And so maybe he can add something about the words they used and their favorite words. But it was before the war, right? It's important to say it was before the war.
Yeah, the last time I was on was February 22nd, 2022.
So 2 days before the war started.
And in the run-up to the war, they did talk about peace. And one of the phrases that you put up, принуждение к миру, compulsion to peace, was one of the narratives that they used when they were preparing the public for the invasion. They were not saying, we need to conquer Kiev. They were saying that the Kiev regime is committing genocide against people in the Donbass. They won't implement the Minsk agreements. And if they won't implement the Minsk agreements, which would have required Ukraine to reintegrate these territories that Putin said were the victims of Ukrainian genocide. Putin was saying Ukraine is committing genocide against the people in the Donbass, and Kiev must reintegrate these territories into Ukraine. And if they don't, we must compel them to peace. So that was there. One thing I would just add about saying peace, saying war. Anybody who supports the regime can use any of these terms.
Exactly. That's a very, very good note.
It's only if you're against the war or against Putin that they're illegal. And they're very good at understanding who's who.
Because if you are against the war and if you use the word war, you might be punished for that. But if you are pro-war and you use the word war, they will understand that you are talking about the war, like Russia is protecting itself, or Russia's war with NATO, not against Ukraine. So that's how they present it.
Время покажет, most of all, on Первый канал, first channel.
First channel. I think it loosened up a little bit from the beginning. No, I think But it's not that bad as it was in the beginning, I think.
It depends on who you are and what the context is. Nina?
It's because the authorities started using the word war. Putin himself started, he pronounced, in the first month he didn't use it, then he started using the word war actually, meaning the war against NATO, but not against Ukraine. And the same thing, I think, like with some other words. So mostly people use like special operation or SVO, the abbreviation, right? The abbreviation.
They're hear me? They are trying to avoid words war or SVO, special military operation. They try to say situation, these conditions or something like that.
Yeah,
but if you trust somebody, if you are against war, if you understand this is war, you can say war. But officially, you would avoid
But
all
you
of
are
that
talking
words.
about private conversations, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about
because
private conversations.
in public, people I think started saying war, meaning like with different meaning.
In public, people trying to avoid words war or SVO. They are trying to avoid SVO.
No, I mean
And
like journalists,
Okay, journalists.
Public speech,
different.
like public speech.
It's a lot of variety. It's it depends on if you are official. I mean, if you are working on Russian propaganda, you can say anything you want. Especially if you say war against Western world.
Western,
yeah.
yes.
So, but in private speech, or if you are on a like, как родительское собрание. If you are at school, for example, yeah, and you are talking with your teacher of publicly with a lot of different parents, they would say situation still, and but.
Yes, I heard about that, and some linguists wrote about that as well, that people are using just the word situation. And I remember I saw a title of some, it just some singer or actress or some, it was not a political article or anything, like someone got married or something like that. And so they say, because of the situation, in the title, that was, I know people used it in the private conversations. We were talking mostly like in a public speech, like politicians and stuff like that. But I've never seen it in a title, like in the headline, and it was in the headline. I saw it on Facebook, like the singer, I don't know, did something because of the situation. I think that's it.